you've probably never seen this building before. It no longer is. This was the home that I grew up in. It's 6060 Old Lakeshore Road. Maybe not a big place for you, but home for me. And the story is, I have all my major move in the world is across the street. This is the Young family that grew up at 6060 Old Lakeshore Road in 1960. This detail says home to me. And the story I'd really like to tell is that Buffalo is a place that my kids call home, my grandchild calls home, and I hope that your kids and grandchildren call home. This beautiful home at 6046 Old Lakeshore Road belonged to my grandmother. So next door to my house was my grandmother's house. Next door to my grandmother's house was my uncle's house. This is a usual Buffalo story. This was my first real house. It was between my grandmother's house and my house. These are my siblings. This is where we decided to call home. And I can't tell you the blessings. It's partially because we had a view of the lake from all of those homes, but more so because we had all sorts of love surrounding us. This building you might recognize. This is St. Francis High School. And love is where I found my husband at St. Francis High School, all the way down the street, 3 miles from my home, when I was 16 years old. We then sent our children here, and hopefully my children will send their children here. After Jake was out of St. Francis, went to Notre Dame, he discovered this building, which is across the street from my home, at 6060 Old Lakeshore. This is 6055 Old Lakeshore Road. This was a barn that belonged to my grandmother's property. And Jake said, let's think about turning this into a project. So when we were actually in 1977 painting this building, he said, I think that I'll make my senior project a number of apartments in this building. I think that might have been a little foresight about reusing a building and becoming a developer. As it turns out, this is our home now at 6055 Old Lakeshore Road. It houses 4 children. It has held a number of dogs, relatives from all ages, and a whole lot of love and life, and a place my kids still want to come. So you're going to see a lot of pictures. This was the barn. We live in a barn, and this was what my husband decided we would turn into our living room. It stayed our garage for a while, but after a number of years and a number of children, it did become a living room. You'll see that in a second. Here you go. That's the after of that exact room. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I have to keep it like right in my mouth. Okay. We laugh about the fact that my grandmother, who lived across the street in a very beautiful home that you saw, used to come over when we were looking at turning our home into our home and say, Katie, I have to talk to you in the other room. I think your husband is out of his mind. And I said, well, Grandma, this is going to be our kitchen. And she's like, no, I know, I've raised you for better than that. It's not going to happen. And I said, really, it's going to be okay. It's really going to be okay. Sometimes you just have to put it into trust. So this is our kitchen presently. My grandmother loved to dine with us. She wheeled herself over in her wheelchair until she died at 90 years old across the street. And we're raising our family here. Once again, I didn't do this alone. My husband Jake is an architect. We love architects. But this is a generational story. This is my son Zach on the left in 1981, and this is my grandson Augie last year in front of our home. This is a story I would hope that my children will be able to tell. That this home, this community has supported us and will continue to support us. Now here's a little controversial story. I love this building. This is the Skyway. I know you want to tear it down. But this was my first link to the city. I was starry-eyed when we were able to leave Lakeview and go into the city, to the big, bright city. And for those of us who live south of the city, it's quick. Once we learned about that bridge, we learned about another bridge. And we had a summer home over in Canada. This beautiful building was 100 years old when we bought it. It was not looking like this. And my darling husband renovated it. We lived in it for all it was worth for 12 years. We sold it and then bought this building. Now, my family, Jake's office is in this building, my office is in this building, my son Zachary's advertising office is in this building, and our daughters own a restaurant called Merge in this building. And my girls, a little advertising for them. So our story is really a story of family, being able to stay in this community, being supported by this community, being elevated by this community, by the historical architecture that we have available to us, and by the people we have. This little humble building is the milk house on our property, right in front of our house at 6055 Old Lake Shore Road. Jake most recently renovated this into a workshop. And that's our daughter Eliza and him just a couple of weeks ago as he was finishing up his project. I just want to say how blessed we are to be here. Thank you.